he was pretty much gone. They said, Joe, it's over, you're getting out. And he said, I'm not getting out, you're getting out. And they were very nasty, 25th Amendment and everything else. He got out, and they put her in. And she somehow, a woman, somehow she's doing better than he did.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine it can last.
That's right. Kamala Harris is somehow a woman, and she is performing better than a man, Joe Biden, did when he was the one running against Donald Trump. Donald Trump seems to be very confused about that, but he needs to get over that confusion if he wants to win the election, because Kamala continues to increase her lead in some of these critical battleground states, which we're gonna get to in just a second.
Hey, don't scroll away. Come back. Because before the video continues, we just want to urge you to lend your support to TYT. You power our honest reporting. You do it at tyt.com/team, and we love you for it. Yeah, to me, the most amazing part of that clip was that he was genuinely perplexed.
He was, yeah.
He's like, she's a woman, but she's doing better than Joe Biden, who was a man.
Yeah.
You see, like and look, I don't want to do identity politics. I don't want to talk about race, sex, all these things. But the sexism was screaming through that comment. Like, he's never once considered that a woman could do better than a man.
No, but hold on. Like, it's even worse than that, guys, because it's not like he is comparing a woman with an equal man. He's shocked that a woman like Kamala Harris, who's much younger, is able to perform better and be more competitive than an 81-year-old man who's suffering from significant cognitive decline. He is perplexed by that, which means that his opinion of women is way lower than even I thought.
Yeah, I mean, he, not only that, like if he said it about athletics, the fire department, the military, it's still not right, but you get it that a lot of old school people think. And then when it comes to physical strength on athletics, it is right? Like men are faster, stronger at the highest levels, et cetera, and on average. But he's not talking about any of that.
No,
he's talking about the realm of careers, politics, intellectual heft, et cetera. And he thinks a woman can outthink and outperform a senile old man? That is so strange.
I thought she did that on a debate stage recently.
Yeah, with another senile old man, that's right.
So let's get to the latest polling, because Trump continues to dig himself in a hole by hyper-focusing on Kamala Harris being a woman and women are dumb, and obviously some of the lies about Haitian immigrants eating their neighbors' cats. I don't think that's working out for him. And you see it reflected in some of these battleground states. So without further ado, let's go to this first clip where Harry Enten gets into the details of what's happening in the state of Pennsylvania, an incredibly critical state for someone like Kamala Harris to win. Let's watch.
This is in the Keystone State in Pennsylvania. All these polls were released in the last 24 hours, and we see a lot more blue than right on your screen. So Quinnipiac yesterday, +5 in Pennsylvania for Kamala Harris. The New York Times this morning just out, a 4-point lead for Kamala Harris. Franklin and Marshall in Pennsylvania, a 3-point margin, a little bit closer. And Marist came out at midnight, or 12:01, came out with a tie. I will also note the Washington Post had a 1-point advantage for Kamala Harris. So the bottom line is there is a range of results in the Keystone State, Pennsylvania, 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 but it leans in the Harris direction. Not one of these results, even within the margin of error, has Trump ahead.
So I think he's right there. I mean, you're starting to see these polls trend in favor of Kamala Harris. And again, the election always comes down to these battleground states. So Pennsylvania is important in this calculation that Harry Enten has made in regard to Kamala Harris winning the electoral college. Remember, you need 270 electoral college votes in order to win the presidential election. And so he then looks into 2 other states, Michigan and Wisconsin. Let's take a look at the results there.
Let's talk about some of these other battleground states.
Yeah, let's talk about Michigan and Wisconsin. All right, so Marist College, Quinnipiac University, all coming out again within the last 24 hours. Well, this is not such a hard slide to digest because the fact is they both found the same thing in both of the states. Maris and Quinnipiac in the state of Michigan finding Kamala Harris up by 1, and then in Wisconsin, well within the margin of error, but a 1-point advantage in Wisconsin. So the bottom line is, at least in these two important states, these two pollsters find the same thing.
So in my opinion, things are looking good for Kamala Harris in the battleground states of Pennsylvania and Michigan. But the lead that she's enjoying right now in Wisconsin is not really much of a lead. So keep that in mind. Cenk, before we get to Harry Enten and what he believes is the path for victory for Harris, what do you think about all this?
So I had the race at 50-50 for quite some time after Kamala Harris came into the race, went from 0 to, and when she first came in, she was still trailing a decent amount. She caught him, and then it was 50-50 for a long time. Then I said, I don't know, about 10 days ago or so, she's now got the lead, right? And it's clear enough that she has the lead. But today's the first day I wish the election were today. If the election were today, I think she wins. And I say that with not great certainty, but I'm worried about how this election is seesawing, and I don't want it to seesaw anymore. 5-point lead in Michigan, 4-point lead in essence in Pennsylvania are really good. That's gives you some confidence that that's beyond the margin of error, and even if something weird happens, she still wins if the election were held today. But Anna, you're right. By far the biggest note of caution is Wisconsin's only +1. That's within the margin of error. And so after all this, after Donald Trump was talking about eating cats and dogs and executing babies and has said 12 other maniacal things per day, it's still only a 1-point lead in Wisconsin.
Yeah, and that is concerning, and I think it does speak to the frustration that Americans have been feeling in this country as inflation really did impact their personal finances. Like, you really can't talk about the Inflation Reduction Act and the wonderful things that were accomplished for infrastructure when Americans have been struggling with inflation. Yes, it has slowed down, but you have the high inflation and then you had the high interest rates. It's been pretty brutal for Americans. And I think that, at the end of the day, what they end up caring about the most is what their own personal finances are looking like, and they're gonna blame the current administration.
Yeah, well, look, guys, again, if you're a Democrat, you're gonna be very frustrated with me, but my job's to tell the truth here. So when they passed those bills, they were like, oh my God, FDR 2.0, these are the greatest bills ever. So why aren't they running on them? Why isn't it working? If these were the greatest bills that were ever passed since Franklin Delano Roosevelt, why isn't Wisconsin ecstatic over it? Why isn't the whole country ecstatic over it? Because when FDR passed Social Security, the country was ecstatic about it. And it made an immediate impact, and FDR was beloved and won 4 terms, right?
And it was something very specific rather than like this nebulous infrastructure bill, which, by the way, infrastructure is important, and it's important to pass an infrastructure bill. I have already aired my grievances with that bill, including privatizing public lands, blah, blah, blah. You guys get the point. But infrastructure projects also take time. And so you don't reap the benefits or the rewards of that policy until the infrastructure is built.
Yeah, but I mean, look, find a way to brag about it if you think it's really good. But the reason that they're not bragging about any of it is because obviously it's not resonating.
Right.
If it resonated, they would double down, quadruple down. They have all the money in the world. They would run ads, they would focus on it, but they're choosing not to focus on it at all because they tested it and they're like, we helped the semiconductor industry. What do you think? Does that help you vote for us? And they're like, no, wait, what did you do? Oh, we gave $50 billion to these giant companies. No, not interested. Now you could say, hey, it was a good bill and the country needed it for national security, et cetera, but it's not resonating with the average American at all.
Yeah.
So sorry, but I was right about that. Not FDR 2.0. They can't find one thing to brag about in any of the bills that he passed.
Yeah, look, you know me, you know that I was very supportive of the CHIPS Act, but I agree with you in terms of the political benefits of passing the CHIPS Act. So with all that in mind, please keep Kamala Harris's current performance in Wisconsin in mind. And now we go to Harry Enten's theory on how she can win the Electoral College. Let's watch.
We average it all together. This is all the September polling, not just the ones that I showed you. And what do we see? In Michigan, a 4-point advantage for Kamala Harris. In Pennsylvania, a 2-point advantage. Wisconsin, a 2-point advantage. Again, pretty gosh darn close, but leaning in her direction. And John, you know me. What does this all mean for the electoral map? Well, in the race to 270 electoral votes, keep in mind, Kamala Harris can win with just these northern battleground states, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. So if we lean all of those blue here, and even if we give Donald Trump North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, Kamala Harris gets to exactly 270 electoral votes.
So I agree with him when he says it's still close, even after he did the average of all the polls. But that is how he feels Kamala Harris is most likely to win the election if the polls continue trending in the direction that they're trending right now. But what do you think, Cenk? Do you think that she could win over Wisconsin, secure those 3 battleground states, and win the Electoral College?
Look, if the normal trajectory continues, she's going to win. I'm worried about a war breaking out in the Middle East that would just, then you throw out every one of these numbers. None of them mean anything anymore, because if the war is significant enough, big enough, it will consume the entire election and people will vote because it's top of mind. And they'll be worried, are we gonna go to war, or et cetera. Now, it might, even if the war starts in the Middle East, it might not get that big by election day, but I'm just telling you that there are other factors here. And remember, there's another giant factor here. Donald Trump can make 200 mistakes in a row, and he could say that he personally ate a cat and a dog and that he's Haitian, and he won't lose any of his base. He won't lose a single vote in his base, right? And for the ones that are leaning towards him, apparently they don't mind. They don't mind anything, right? He thinks a woman is by definition inferior to a man. Don't mind, they don't mind, right? So he's not gonna lose almost anything in his base. So, but if Kamala Harris makes one significant mistake, that's like so significant that it's about a quarter of the size of an average Trump mistake, right? The entire media, right-wing media, will go nuts, and then mainstream media, in order to seem fair, will pile on and pile on. And Kamala, I can't believe she said something wrong. She said something wrong, and they all scream it from the rooftops. Meanwhile, that same day, Donald Trump will say 18 things that are wrong and outrageous and even worse. But the uneven battlefield helps. I know that for MAGA, they're going to lose their minds, but you guys don't get it. The media overall, when you include right-wing media, is tilted towards you guys so significantly, and you have no idea. So you got that to worry about, you got the war to worry about. That's why I say, I wish the election were today, because I think she would win today. It would be by a tiny, tiny margin, but I think she'd pull it off. But let's see what happens. We got about 50 long days left, and anything can happen. But right now, she is definitely leading.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. We really appreciate it, guys. And we appreciate it if you become members, because that allows us to be independent, honest, progressive, all the things that you don't get from corporate media. And all of that is because of you guys. Hit the join button below and become one of us, become a young Turk.